Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Crusaders versus the Rebels. It finished 66-0 and it looked like it could have blown out even further. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion, and to discuss the intricacies and the of this game, which are going to be pretty slim, let's be honest. With me is the real Mike Pullman. How you doing, sir?
Good to be here. Not sure how I feel after that 80 minutes, but yeah, no, good to be back again on the show, mate.
Thank you very much. Now, it's cold down in Christchurch, so good to see the folks getting out. There's a decent crowd out there for a Crusaders game. I've seen less for a quarter-final. So clearly all the work they did around cheap tickets and because tonight was a big night for Ryan Crotty. 150 caps for the gentleman. Bit of a hat tip. So yeah, congratulations to him.
Oh yeah, what a fascinating career, and one of his better games tonight, and great to see him get over the line at the end there. But I mean, Ryan Crotty, just briefly on that, he's such a, considering what he's been through and the amount of setbacks he's had, especially with concussion, for him to be still running around and performing at the level he is just, it really is one of the great stories in New Zealand rugby for me.
Yeah, and he's one of those players that if you were to sit down and go, okay, let's look at the physical attributes of the player and blah, 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 and rank it all down and go, Ryan Crotty would not be up there as being an All Black. He's up there because of his rugby smarts, his and his game awareness, and just being his rugby intelligence, as well as his ability. He's not a freak of nature in the same way that someone like Sonny Williams is. And I'm saying that in a nice way, not trying to be who's a big guy, travels fast, has got great mitts to give off those offloads. That's not Crotty. Crotty's a thing that is very much, I say, it's around his game smarts, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think his work off the field as well, the leadership aspects of his game, the mentoring that he does, just a remarkable player all around, and but again, for me, the resilience of the man is something that players coming through the system will and have looked up to, and I think players like Crotty are a big reason why we see so much talent move to the Crusaders, because to work under somebody like that, second to none.
Absolutely. So getting on to the actual game then, James Slater in the chat says, Scott Barrett was absolutely outstanding, dominated all areas of the game, but the Rebels offered no resistance whatsoever. Now, they offered some resistance in the first sort of 4 minutes, or first 5 minutes anyway. They had all the ball, the Crusaders couldn't get their hands on it. Didn't particularly look like breaking through, but gained themselves a penalty in that half, which Reece Hodge, it didn't look like, it was fairly straight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I mean, you would expect him to kick those. But I think a problem for Reece is he hasn't had a lot of kicking this year, and the conditions down there were a wee bit difficult kicking into the breeze. But again, it's those little moments in rugby, and it's good to see teams, going for the 3 points. I think sometimes we get too sort of tied up and wanting to go for a try, but you've got to make those moments count. And if you don't, it affects the confidence, and that has a flow-on effect, and that's exactly what happened. It really was one of the only chances, really, for me, that the Rebels actually had in this game, or at least that's how it feels.
It kind of feels like, I mean, they did have other chances, other penalties, but by the time they had those, the score had already blown out, and kicking three was a total waste of time. So you've got to say that, yes, you can understand why they didn't. And I was going to go through this, and Bryn Hall has ruined the stat that I was going to bring up, because yes, he did manage to score one. All the other tries, apart from the one that Bryn Hall scored, were scored by the back three of the Crusaders, which is amazing when you think they scored 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tries. And it wasn't until Crotty went over in the 81st minute that it was basically all by the back three, plus one by Bryn Hall, and then Crotty. This was this was a lesson in how to release your outside backs, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think Severus, again, a really fantastic game, getting the hat trick. Braden Ennell, he's not only got the pace and the power, but it's his ability to get himself in the right positions. And I'm actually just looking at the score, and you did right. It was only the backs that scored tries, and I don't think I've seen a scoreline of this margin uh, when it's only been the backs involved in the tries. It's actually quite remarkable when you think about it.
It is. So in that first half, we so the Rebels went close first. The Crusaders came back on 8 minutes. We had Reese collecting a crossfield kick Dame Hallett Petty was nowhere near him out there on that right wing. Which was and then we end up having a bit of kick tennis. We actually had quite a lot of kick tennis in this game. I think there was quite a lot of kicks from hand. 31 kicks by the Crusaders, 25 by the Rebels. For what has been as you say, a bit of a big score. That's quite a lot of kicking as well, and it did take a while in that first half for things to really settle down.
Yeah, it didn't, and I think that's a bit of the conditions as well. Would have been very, very dewy on the field, given the temperature and whatnot. And but again, when you have a kicking game, I felt the Crusaders found grass a lot more than the Rebels did, and some of that the Rebels back three were kind of asleep at the wheel. I remember when one ball went into touch. Two of their players kind of got mixed up. But you've either got to kick the high ball and put pressure on the catcher, or you've got to find grass and you've got to, get territory. And the Rebels did neither with their kicking game for me.
No, we've got some big kickers, big boots on both sides, actually. Obviously, Hodge has got a big boot in him, but so has Havili and Mwanga, who can both kick the ball a long way. We saw... one of the other stats we'll talk about later probably is offloads, and that's what came out for the second try. Goodhue, awake at the back of a ruck, jumps over the ruck, offloads to Braden Ennell, who then makes the offloads to Havili, makes the break, spots that his support player is a prop, so decides to round the fullback himself, and off he goes to score under the posts. They generally. They kind of tried to make life easy for Mwanga with his conversions tonight.
Yeah, and all around another really good kicking night for Mwanga. I think he missed one kick, but yeah, it was just it felt like the like you said the edges where the Crusaders were just so dominant, but. As we'll probably talk about, the amount of tackles that the Rebels were missing and their technique of the tackling it was atrocious, absolutely atrocious.
So I put a tweet out fairly early on that showed that the Crusaders had made 100% of their tackles, and the Rebels were at something like 56% or so, and that was when I think it was like about 14-0. We finished the game on 86% tackling by the Crusaders, 66 by the Rebels. Yeah, you can't fall off that many tackles in a game. You have to be in the 80s.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously with that falling off tackles is the amount of defenders beaten, and that's quite a high number.
Now, pro tip for everybody: defenders beaten is basically the same number as tackles missed. They're just the same number either way. So it's the same. So yes, it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean it was just but again the technique I think of some of the Rebels defense, they're going high. They were lucky in one instance to not really have somebody in the bin. But the two-man tackles both men going high, no one's going low. It was just a pretty senseless strategy in some parts of this game, I felt.
Yeah, you got to say, and good for the game makes a good point. Rebels race was run mid-season. They did have a good opening 6 minutes though. Exactly, they did, and they had a good good opening to the season. Their last sort of 7 games, I think it is, they've really struggled, and the area they really struggled of is 3 out of the 4 tries in that first half were made by cross kicks. The crossfield kick created the break for the third try, and then the ruck goes wide. The ball then goes wide to Enor to score. Then there's a crossfield kick to Enor, which he collects and then scores under the post right on half time. So, 3 out of the 4 tries in that first half to crossfield kicks. The Crusaders clearly done their coaching homework during the week.
Yeah, definitely. Richard Mwanga's execution is probably the best in the country. Actually, I'd rate him above Bowden Barrett in terms of execution. I know that sounds crazy, but what it also speaks to is the lack of cohesion in terms of the Rebels' defense. A few 1 or 2 cross kicks, but you got to adjust. You got to the defense has to adjust, and they just didn't do that in this game, and the Crusaders exploited it.
A couple of things though. Again, Kieran Reid managed to spill the ball with the line begging in that first half. So the Crusaders did leave some points out there. They weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Also, a bit of a worry for it. I mean, Crossy made it through the full 80 minutes, but in that first half, there were a couple of times where the trainer was on to look after him because he looked like he was struggling in that first half, didn't he?
Yeah, I think any other game he probably would have gone off. That the wrist, I think it was, and I think there was also a slight concern about concussion. They definitely should have taken Goodhue off. That was a pretty big hit that he got on the side of the head. But Crotty's a sort of player. He just keeps getting up, and he's not gonna come off the field, particularly in the 150th.
Yeah. Some other point. I thought Nazarani had a relatively decent half in that first half as well. He managed to get a couple of breaks, but they didn't come off. But apart from that, it was hard to find players. I mean, the Rebels were just. I mean, I think they had like half possession, half territory, but their execution just wasn't there. We had Hodge kick the ball dead from a penalty, he kicks all the way out into the through the try area, and they really just didn't help themselves in this game either, did they?
Sorry, what was that last point?
Oh, just the Rebels has made too many errors in that first half as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think their offense. I don't even know if we use that word, but when they had the ball, they classic case. Very little penetration, and they tried to do that, and then side to side, and they didn't have the pace. So if you don't have if you're not winning the battle physically, you've got to try and win the battle with pace, and they couldn't do that.
No, to be fair to them in that first half, especially in the first 20 minutes, they really did try different things. So we had missed past to Hodge, and he got a bit of a break. We had some kicks. They were trying to mix things up. We had Nazarani breaking through the middle. To be fair to the Rebels, they did try things, but one of the big things about this Crusaders team is, and it was mentioned by the commentators, was the work off the ball. The work defensively was outstanding, which is why we got the 80% tackle rate. All the focus will be on the fact that Braden Enor and Sever Reese both got hat tricks. They scored 60-odd points. However, the other way to look at this is the Rebels scored 0 points. And the reason they did that was because of the hard work by the forwards on the whole. I mean, we'll go through a number of people, the tackle counts later, but that was definitely there. You were talking about the fact that you have to find grass. And Braden Enor early in that second half misjudged one of those kicks, gave the Rebels territory in the Crusaders 20. They put pressure on, but eventually, again, they just turned over the ball. As you say, they had their opportunities tonight, but they just couldn't find that final pass.
Yeah, and I mean they won all their scrums as well, and I think there was a comment by Good for the Game. Yeah, the scrum held up really well, as did the Crusaders, but the line out was another area where the Rebels turned the ball over, and but yeah, the Crusaders again, they kind of took a wee while to get going, but once they click, they're very hard to stop. And on your point with the defense, I think the effort tonight was really summed up by the tackle Richard Mwanga made scrambling D. It was shown on the replays a few times. Just amazing commitment from all these guys defensively.
Yeah, and we would talk about the fact that this Crusaders side scores most of their tries off first or second phase ball. And the next three are all about that. First phase off the line out, went wide to Reese, one man overlap, and through he goes. Next, and Hall ran that sporting line. Next up, quick tap on their own 22, gets spun wide. Rich Mwanga breaks, Reese chips in and scores. And then Todd is held up, so it's a 5 metre scrum, which Reed then to Mwanga, which puts just quick hands to Enor, and he scores. Sorry, actually there's another one here. Fourth one, line out, chip over the top by Mwanga. Havili collects, goes over and scores. So 4 tries there within 47 minutes to 61 minutes total. That's really where the Crusaders sort of ran away with this game. It all exploded, you've got to and at that point. 4 tries, all of them off first phase and one of them off second phase ball there. You've really got to watch watch the Crusaders off set piece and also off kick returns.
Yeah, and it's that sort of intensity, like I mentioned last night. Like there's something about these Kiwi teams. It's either before halftime or around that 45 to 50 minute mark. They seem to go to another level, and a lot of their points come from, set piece really out of nothing and a couple of phase plays. So yeah, Crusaders did that in droves tonight.
Yeah. Then we had I'll be honest, I kind of switched off a little bit to this point, but the Rebels had got some ball after that 60 minutes. I put a tweet out there asking people as to how many points. I did a snap poll as to how many points do you think this would run out to. So let's just quickly see what people thought on that snap 10-minute poll. It's going all slow now. But at that point, 61 minutes, 54-0. It really looked like this could be an 80, even an 80-odd point game, couldn't it?
Oh, easily. I think I voted on the poll. I said it would be about 70 to 74. So yeah.
Yep. So it could have exploded out there. And Crotty then made a break, put Reese over to score. Enor then knocked on when he was over the line when he should have scored. Havili could have scored that one. And finally, we had the Crotty scrum after 80 minutes. Not the Crotty scrum. The scrum ball came off the back of that, went to Crotty. He went and scored, and then also kicked the conversion too. So that was fantastic to see. On his 150th game, got given that one, and it finished 66-0, which is as you say, it was a drubbing, and that's going to probably that puts a big dent in the Rebels' chances of making the playoffs, doesn't it?
It puts a massive dent in their chances, and I mean, if the Waratahs can get up and beat the Brumbies, it's going to be even more so. And what I will say, I was thinking as that game was ending, teams need to actually, no pun intended, sorry, not the right, teams need to show up. They need to show up when they're playing Christchurch. It's becoming it is becoming a wee bit tiresome. These Crusaders runaways at home. I mean, take nothing away from them. They're a great team, but visiting teams, whether they be Australian, South African, even New Zealand, need to turn up to Christchurch and play.
They do. I mean, some of the stats here: 18 clean breaks for the Crusaders, 22 offloads, which gives you an idea as to how much space they were given, and how often there was only one tackler rather than the two tackler wrapping up. When we talk about about the fact that the Crusaders scored off first phase, they lost 3 of their lineouts. One of those was a 5 metre lineout outside the Rebels' line. So there's at least 3 tries I can think of that the Crusaders left out in the park there relatively easily. We had Reed's knock on, Enor knock on, and then also that 5 metre lineout try, which would normally you'd expect to get something from. So yeah, this really could have blown out to a bigger score than it actually did. So apart from obviously Enor and Reese, who scored 3 tries each, who else stood out for you in this game?
Ryan Crotty, again, I thought was fantastic. Scott Barrett, as always. Taufua, I felt was quite good. I think when he came off the bench, and Bryn Hall, doesn't get the credit he should. He's got a pretty good pass on him, and he's certainly a lot quicker at getting the ball out to that back line, which is a big part of the Crusaders' success. So yeah, well done to all those guys.
Yeah, and also Havili read the game well from fullback. Also played well. But one of the things we talked about before was the defence and the fact that they donuted the Rebels. Kieran Reid, 17 tackles, 1 missed. Matt Todd, 15 tackles, 2 missed. Sam Whitelock and Scott Barrett, both 12 tackles each, none missed. Those guys got through a chunk of work that everyone will pretty much ignore after seeing the skyline.
Yeah. Sorry, just on that. And that's when I look at stuff like that, I look at team culture and the buy-in from everybody. And yeah, some of their efforts tonight and in other games to just not let teams over that line. They're playing as one unit, and they're very clear on who they are as a team, and it's just incredibly unifying, and that puts together some great moments on the park, and we saw that probably a better example of that tonight than we have all year.
Yeah, and you talked about the fact that Crotty had a good game. We also saw sometimes the wingers come into that channel as well. Billy Meeks, top tackler for the Rebels in that number 12. Sorry, not 12. Yeah, in that 12 jersey with 11 tackles. He missed 4. Not as bad as Maddox, who missed 5 with his, but only made 5. But yeah, Billy Meeks got a lot of traffic. But really was surprised by who picked up the second most tackles by the Rebels. Adam Coleman went off around about the 30th minute, I think it was. Went off sometime during the first half. And yet he ends up being the second top tackler for the Rebels. There's some serious problems going on there.
Yes, definitely. That's not only the missed tackles, but it's also a maybe dare I say it, a commitment to make the tackle. Yeah, potentially. I mean, I have to look at the tape again, but potentially the Rebels are a wee bit standoffish at times as well. And if you give this sort of back line with the likes of Reese, and especially you give them space and time, they will gas you.
Yep. Nazarani, I mentioned on the attacking side of things for the Rebels, he had a good first half, sort of faded in the second half. 13 carries though, he got through a lot of carries. As did Dana Hill-Petty, 16 carries for him as well. And Jones, who came on for Coleman, he got through 9 carries for 31 metres. So they were the guys who did most of the work on the offensive side. Also, actually, Meeks, to be fair, who we've already talked about, he did the defensive work. Meeks got through a lot of work in this game. But those are the sort of names that jump out for me from the Rebels. Any sort of final points before we go off and watch the Waratahs versus the Brumbies?
I'm sort of waiting for you to mention it.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
The big one. Okay, so I ended up having a bit of a Twitter spat in this game in the second half, which is why I just noted down what the tries were and nothing else in the second half. Is because when Cooper came on, he got booed, and the commentators and also various media people on Twitter all went, "Oh, you shouldn't boo him. It was X years ago now since that happened." Now, to be honest, folks, look, a lot of New Zealand grounds and a lot of grounds globally are sterile enough as it is. Now, a little bit of booing, a little bit of pantomime, a little bit of entertainment, I'm all for it, folks. He's shown in the past that he lets the booing get to him. Now, if the booing didn't get to him, people just wouldn't be wouldn't boo him. But because he knows he lets it get to him, he does. People keep on. That's why it's kept on going. And a little bit of pantomime booing. Yeah, I've got nothing wrong with that, and it just adds a bit of life to the ground, as far as I'm concerned. Michael?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of what you said. I see where some are coming from. With I don't like it to be honest, but I find it very interesting. You're right. First and foremost, there are a lot of games in this country where people just, the stadiums are lifeless, so it's good to see that. But it's interesting that some media commentators are kind of coming out on Twitter tonight and saying, "Oh, it's ridiculous and it's old and get over it." Those same people didn't have a problem with it, and in fact, they encouraged it 8 years ago when it all started. And why did it start? Hey, because Quay Cooper, had he got Richie McCaw, how dare he? Quay Cooper's a great player. We need to accept that. So yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on what you're saying. But yeah, we do need more emotion in rugby fans, and the media can't have it both ways. What do they want our players these players to be robots? We really need NRL do it really well, and American sports do it really well. We need more storylines in sport. So, hey, let's just there's bigger things to talk about in the game of rugby than this.
Well, yeah, there are better things to talk about. To me, yeah. But so I took a bit of flack. So I went on Twitter and said, "Hey, it's all a bit of pantomime, it's all a bit of fun. Let's have a bit of entertainment." Yeah, I say I've taken a lot of flack saying it's not respectful. It's like, what? If we only do respectful stuff, then it's going to get very, very boring. Let's be honest, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't get in big Twitter arguments normally. And I definitely am not disrespectful to people. I think Quade Cooper is a really good player. He's not as good as he was. He's not been as good since he had his knee surgery. To be fair, he hasn't quite got the step he had or the pace, but still, great player. One of those ones I'd pay money to watch. Don't get me wrong. But still, I'll boo him when he comes on the pitch at a Blues game because, hey, it's all a bit of fun. It's all a bit part of the entertainment. It's not serious. I think he's a good player. And you know what? One of the things people say is that actually, as politicians say, the only thing that's bad is when people don't talk about me. Whether they talk about me well, good, or whether they talk about me badly, I don't care. Just please talk about me. At least we recognise he's on the pitch. We recognise that he's a threat. Otherwise, we wouldn't boo him. I think it's kind of some respect. And if I was him, I would come out and say, hey, it's a sign of respect. It's a badge of honour. I actually quite like it. There you go.
Or he could just do Andrew Mertens.
Sorry?
Or he could just do an Andrew Mertens, kick a goal one day and throw the palms up in the air and the one-fingered salute. Who cares?
Well, yes, or Carlos Spencer and run the ball into the corner rather than run under the post and run all the way to the sideline, put it down, and then kick the goal. Yes, and those sort of things is what we want. I don't want people sticking fingers up at the crowd because hey, we've got kids in the crowd, but I do want that element of entertainment for me. Anyway, Michael, we have to get going because the Brumbies versus the Waratahs versus Brumbies is probably kicked off already. Thank you very much for joining me again. Catch Real Michael Pullman at Real Mike Pullman on Twitter. I've gone blank as to your podcast. Sorry.
accidental offside rugby.
Accidental offside rugby, exactly. I had to listen to Ryan's interview with Ryan today, and really enjoyed that interview with him from the Tribe Sports app. So that was really kind of cool. And thank you for having me on that show as well. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone in the live chat has been great. I'll be back tomorrow morning for the Jaguares versus the Sharks. Kicks off at 7:40 a.m. That is going to be painful for me. But yes, please do join me and enjoy whatever other rugby you're watching this weekend.